Greetings. Greetings. Let me fix my... Oh, my hair's getting clipped. Oh, man. It's not good. Not good. Couple clicks upwards for this old head. Fixing that. Bring that down here and then bring that back up here. Sorry, just fixing my webcam and stuff. You know how it is. You all know how it goes. Good morning, Arapi, Arsal Dal, Mihail Simeonov, Pang, Biej, Polly, Ryan, and Hugo Paz. How is everybody? Monday mornings, baby. Monday mornings. You know, you got to draw. Even when it's Monday morning. I'm not sure what we're going to draw today. Maybe we'll poke at Venom a bit more. Where's my Venom? Let's have that open. Maybe we'll come back to that. How's my volume? Am I loud enough? You hear me all right? Am I too loud? Let me sketch a bit first, though, because I haven't really sketched yet today, and I do love it. So let's find out what's in my head this Monday morning. Let's discover. Drawing more GMOs today, I see. Who's this product designed for? It's for nobody, baby. It's just for me. I feel very lucky to be able to do everything on stream just for myself, just for little old me, just to please me. Just to explore and do what I want and to do the parts of drawing that keep me happy and relaxed. And for all of you out there who are drawing on the job for others or doing any other kind of work, I wish you the best of luck on your work this week. One of my lights is humming terribly. Give me a second. I think it's time to replace my lights. I think it's officially time. So many problems with these cheap ones that I use. I think it's definitely time to replace them. Good morning. YouTube keeps unsubbing me from your channel. Come on, YouTube. What are you doing that for? Does YouTube do that? Automatically unsub you from things? What could I have done to make YouTube so mad? The powers that be up at YouTube must be very pro AI. Hello from Earth. Earth, how are you, Earth? Saman Kucher says, hello everyone. Steven, YouTube is saying only one person is watching. YouTube has been glitching a lot lately. Yeah, I think something's, I'm seeing 0 concurrent viewers, even though you guys are talking to me. So I think there's definitely some glitching going on, but that's all right. You know, it'll get fixed eventually, I'm sure. Maybe not on this stream, but hell, if YouTube's glitching, what does that really mean? Maybe it'll be a little bit tighter today. Fewer of us. We could be more intimate, more personal. Evan Nave says, I am the one viewer. There is only the one. Today was the first day that I had to put on my winter jacket to walk the dog. It begins. It begins. Hello, Goro. Speaking of AI, have you seen the people selling AI artwork at an anime expo and the backlash it has gotten? Yeah, I caught a bit of that. I can't say I agree with flipping them off. I know that we're all very hurt and there's a lot of emotions going around, but yeah, I don't think it's very, I understand a lot of what's going around, but for everybody who's in these circles and having these discussions and tweeting crazily about all of these things, things are really, it's getting very mean all around. And I want to implore people, like, this is an argument that doesn't need to be had in a mean way. I don't think there's any good reason for that. And I don't mean because it's not important and because it doesn't deserve strong emotions, but it's more like the discussion is so serious and the things that are happening are so serious and so real that you're wasting your time being mean to people. It's a legal argument, and the realities of the legal situation around it and the ethical situation around it are, you get what I'm saying? Like, that's what you need to focus on. That's what needs to be focused on. That's what all organization needs to be. Around the anger around it is not, it's only going to hurt everybody. And I understand why it's flying around that way. People think that's the only thing that's going on. Like, people think that the only thing you can do right now is be angry. Take it from me. It's not. It's not. And again, when I say that, I mean at individuals. There's no reason to be angry at individuals. At the companies, I'm afraid I have a different story. Companies don't have feelings. And I see every reason to be deeply upset with what the corporations and companies that are making these models are doing and have done. But at individuals, I don't think that's it. Opres MIDI says, know any good reference books for armor? Osprey. Oh, like this. I think it's like this. OSPREY has some good PDFs available online where they go through historical armor century by century. They're like a publisher that focuses on reference materials for military history. So they've got all sorts of stuff like that for armor, for tanks, for guns, their airplanes. They've got all sorts of stuff like that. Who's your favorite Office character? I have not really watched The Office, I have to admit. My wife has seen it, but I have not. I have, weirdly enough, I have seen the last episode because I watched it with my wife, but I wouldn't say I've even seen enough to pick a favorite character. Oh my God, that's a big sin. Oh yes. Oh yes, a very big sin. It won't be long before I'm flayed in the public square over that one. Drawn and quartered. Maybe made to sit on a spike in front of town hall. It won't be long. Artru says, what do you say to the people who say stuff about how it is just a cope, that artists are finding ways in invalidating AI art because why? I can't get paid for my hobby anymore. Yeah, just saying cope is not an argument. I think that's pretty obvious. It's just not an argument. I mean, anyone who's saying something like that to you is proving that they're not actually willing to have an argument. And I personally say nothing to those people. I don't say anything to anyone on these points. I am not engaging in arguments about this stuff. I have put out information that people can then decontextualize from me and carry on their own. I'm putting forth particular viewpoints and interpretations of some things, but yeah, I'm not saying anything to anyone in an argument context. Again, like I said, maybe I would if I thought it was actually relevant here, but I don't think, I think there's very little useful stuff to be had here on the grounds of an argument with an end user, with someone who uses AI tools or anything like that. Again, if there wasn't recourse in other ways, you know, litigative, legislative, then maybe I would think so. But as it stands, it's pretty clear to me that the conversation needs to go elsewhere. I'm guessing the guy with the 3 torsos is buying a 4th one with that money. Yep, he wants to add to his totem pole. He's like, I've got to be distinctly 4 units tall. I've got to be distinctly 4 units tall. Do you have a family, and how do you balance practice and family time? I do not have a family. I sprung fully formed from the fractured head of my father. So I actually don't, I really have no way to relate to people who were born as children and had to develop over time. All that Steven is just graphite in the wind. All we are is graphite in the wind. Hi, Steven, I have a question. How do you get the ideas to create these monsters? And how do you know what color fits those monsters? It's all experience. It's all experience, Samuel. It's, in the most meta sense, the ideas come because you've made the space for them. You've opened a place in your life, in your mind, in which it's appropriate for them to arrive, and that something useful is going to be done with them. I know that may sound a little fuzzy or a little woo-woo new wavy, but I really mean it. I truly 100% mean that the more you prepare a place for them, the more inclined they are to arrive and inform you. Everybody needs to have their own personal relationship with their ideas. As to the colors, values, really I'm just going to swap out colors with any question of what element of design is appropriate for what monster. It comes down to taste, of course, but more importantly, it comes down to either how clear you are on the goal of that particular drawing. If we look at it on just the level of the one drawing that you're doing, what do you think that monster is, right? Where is it from? Where does it live? What does it do? Is it supposed to be scary? Is it just supposed to be interesting? Is it supposed to feel surreal, or is it supposed to feel biologically possible or something like that? The depth of your thinking behind the monster will inform what lines are appropriate, what values are appropriate, what colors are appropriate. But if you don't have that particularly deep a thought about the individual drawing that you're doing, like me on these drawings, I don't have those thoughts about these particular drawings, or really a lot of drawings that I do on stream. What I have is very strong opinions about what I think is interesting in a design. So instead of it being about the one design, it's about my overall feelings across all design. I think these kinds of forms are nicer than these forms. I think these kinds of values are nicer than these values. I think these kinds of colors are nicer than these colors. But there's nothing objective to be said about those things. Those are just my prejudices. They're just my prejudices. And that informs all of my more random drawings that I do. If I was on a job, I would be having considerations more like the first set of ideas that I presented. But when I'm just drawing for myself, my considerations are really focused on my overall feelings about art and design. Will you be purchasing Carlos Huante's new book? Does he have a new book coming out? I did not know. I'll look into it. I have not bought an art book in a long time because I am completely out of room in my tiny apartment for art books. I can't fit another book in there, so I've put a moratorium on buying more books lately. But there's a lot I would buy once I have space. Today or tomorrow, his new Instagram post talks about it. Yeah, I'll look into it. I'll put it on the wish list. I haven't bought one. I haven't bought an art book in probably a couple years, which is a shame because I love having them and I love buying them, but I can't fit anymore. It'd wind up in my bathroom. It'd wind up stacked up on my toilet seat, which is not the nicest place for them. It's very humid, you know, the pages warp. I started playing the new God of War, so I can tell that this design already feels inspired by some of the shapes on the God of War character designs. It's already leaking in there. It's flowing subconsciously. You just ordered a Claire Wendling book? Nice. Which one? I have her drawer book here. somewhere in the archives, I have like a, what's her book, Iguana Bay. I think I may have V's 1 and 2 of that somewhere in my mother's archives. Just jamming up my mother's basement with my art book archive. Can you share some aspects of your process of building your visual library? I personally never went through an active visual library building period. I never said, okay, for the next year, I'm purposefully building my visual library. And today I'm drawing lizards. Today I'm drawing people. Today I'm drawing helicopters. I never did anything like that. I built my visual library through projects, through doing jobs, you know, not just jobs, but pretending I was doing the job at school and on my own, just doing project after project after project after project, which forced me to learn new things. You know, any project, if you're scaling it correctly, is going to ask you to draw things that you're not comfortable with and to research things and things like that. And work certainly does the same thing. Work, once you're doing it as a job, work is constantly forcing you to learn about things that you have no idea about and to do research. So I never did it consciously for its own sake. I just did it through projects. Hamza says, what's up, Steven? Nothing much. Just enjoying my Monday morning, drawing some stuff. Did you finish Venom? I did not. I might come back to him later in this stream. This is where we left him. I just want to sketch rather than render right now, so. Nick Ravioli says, do you still hold some nostalgia or appreciation for sprite art? Yeah. Yeah, of course. Yeah, I was a big fan and very inspired by the sprite work from old video games from when I was a kid. I tried to do it for a long time myself in like MS Paint and things like that. There's a podcast on the Patreon. It's a Patreon exclusive podcast that covers that in some detail. Sort of go into my memories of loving game sprite art and trying to recreate it in MS Paint and Jask Paint Shop Pro. Trying to animate my own things and things like that. Being totally confused about how games are made. But I was just a boy. Hello, Marta. How are you? Since we're on the topic, how do you learn from their books? Do you copy them and then apply it to your own art? Back when I was really heavily trying to improve, if there was a book that really impressed me, like an artist monogram, like one of the Claire Wendling sketchbooks, or a very good instructional book like the Bridgman books, my usual MO was, yes, to copy them. Sometimes read them. I did read quite a few of them, which is not always recommendable. Some of them are pretty hard to understand and the language is getting pretty old. But I would copy them. A lot of the times I'd just do it start to finish. You know, I wouldn't even be selective. I would just say for the next week, every day when I get home from work, I just fire it up and I thoughtfully copy it. Page for page, drawing for drawing. Nowadays, I don't do that anymore. I have enough of a foundation in how drawing works that I can just look at books and be inspired by the particular configuration of ideas and the arrangement of the design factors. I can just take away more specific things from it. Like, oh yeah, how interesting to expose the lights for the local values instead of for the light and shadow effect. And I can just file that away. And that doesn't really require me to copy the drawings. It's just I can digest the idea and it's not mysterious, and then I can carry the idea with me. Is there any good news? Is there any new good news in the AI thread? Well, the DeviantArt thing happened over the weekend, and fortunately, I think it's good news that when DeviantArt announced their AI project, there was immediate pushback and vehement pushback, and that DeviantArt, well, I'm not going to give them any credit for being like, oh, we listened. Well, all those companies love to put on a real noble air whenever they listen to people telling them their mistakes. They're always like, well, we listened to the feedback and now we've done what you wanted. Aren't we great? It's like, but they did change a couple things, but unfortunately my viewpoints on the DeviantArt stuff are pretty, it's pure optics. I discussed it in more detail in a talk that I did with Proco recently that should be out this week, later this week, I believe. But the discussion there is moving along so fast that it's like, you know, whatever I said there is going to almost inevitably be outdated by the time it comes out. But yeah, DeviantArt's tools are just, it's pure optics. They're just trying to look good. They can't actually deliver on anything that they're promising. And the business models of the companies that we are concerned with here are specifically predicated axiomatically on the idea that they do not, for any reason, need to honor the requests of a company like DeviantArt. So DeviantArt can say whatever they want, but the AI companies would never agree to honor their requests because it would unhorse their entire business model. So DeviantArt can't help you. The only real actionable thing that can be done is that we need to fight the companies directly, and that we need to establish legal protections against what they're doing. But the good news there is that people are becoming more informed and more aware. So when DeviantArt launched their product on Friday, they didn't just go, oh, that's interesting. No, everyone was like, fuck you. Just demonetized my video, but whatever. Bogdan Mircia with the RON25. Hi, Steven. I'm a strong supporter of coffee and maybe the coffee cups be forever, and may the coffee cups be forever edible. Thank you so much, Bogdan. I really appreciate it. And don't worry, I think that the coffee cups are always going to be edible. Not because they're actually edible, but because I will insist on eating them. The coffee that I'm buying at these upscale hipster coffee shops that surround me in New York City, these people are donating out of the kindness of their own heart for me to buy this coffee. So am I going to waste a significant portion of the value of the coffee by only drinking the liquid inside? God, no. God, no. I'm far too thoughtful and far too philosophical to allow for that to happen. No. If I'm going to pay for coffee with the money from my fans, I'm going to eat the whole cup. I'm going to drink the liquid, and I'm going to ingest the cup, and the plastic lid, and the insulating sleeve, and the minuscule amount of dead skin cells from the barista's fingers that are lingering on the glossy surface of that plastic cup. That's the only way that I can ensure that I'm truly honoring the wishes of my fans. And so I'm going to do it. And I'm going to think of Bogdan while I do it. You better believe it. You better believe it. Thank you, Bogdan. It's just logical when you think about it, you know. So epic. It's so epic to eat coffee cups. What's your favorite part of consuming a coffee? You know, I'm a real like diner coffee kind of guy. I don't know how else to put it. Like I like weak kind of bland coffee that I can drink for a very long time. It's not really the particular flavors of coffee that I enjoy, it's the ritual. So the bigger the cup, the easier it goes down, and the longer I can sip on it, the better. I like to just sit there and drink it for hours. If I can do that on a relaxed day over a nice long conversation with a friend, that's my favorite thing. That's my favorite thing about coffee. Always a good time. Just building up a nice little digital sketchbook page on this sheet at this point. Let me change the thumbnail since I'm losing faith that I'm gonna go back to Venom today. Let me just put the guy that I just drew. Do 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 do. Boo 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 boo. Thinking of shape design, what makes a shape interesting in your opinion? How do you approach shapes in your drawings, paintings? I believe an interesting shape is just one that serves the purpose for the feeling that you want in your pieces. And I don't think there's an objective way to say this shape is better than that shape or anything like that. Give me 1 second to save this and I'll get back to that in a little bit more detail. Boot doo 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 doo, ba da da be da ba da ba bo. We're driving fast in my car. We got our riot gear on and we just want to have fun. No, we're not looking for violence, no. So, what do I mean? The example that I usually give here is to compare Claire Wendling and Dave Finch. Both Claire Wendling and Dave Finch, everyone would agree, are top tier drawing, right? Great, great stuff. Every shape in a Dave Finch drawing is designed to look like a serrated saber-toothed tiger fang, right? It's that same shape over and over again. If you look at the individual shapes in a Dave Finch, they're all this. It's this aggressive, like, crescent energy wave, and it's, you know, sometimes thinner, sometimes longer, it's broken up in different ways, but it's that over and over again. And then if you look at all of the individual shapes in a Claire Wendling, it's all these beautiful, graceful, rounded shapes, all again done in different configurations, combined in different ways to make them interesting. To me, this reveals the secret of shape design. It's about a particular lens. It's about a particular arrangement. It's about a particular opinion coming from the artist. You couldn't say that Dave's drawings are better than Claire's because his are more aggressive looking. And you couldn't say Claire's drawings are more attractive than Dave's because hers are rounder and more sinuous. There is no objectively better shapes. It's about what are you trying to communicate. Dave's shapes work for his kinds of drawings because he's drawing Batman and he needs Batman to look incredibly powerful and overwhelming, right? For Dave's content, for the purposes that he's going for, using Claire's shapes might not be as effective. It might not make a Batman that is as thematically aligned. And the opposite for Claire. Claire's drawings, her content is fairy girls hugging animals, and they're the best ones the world has ever seen. And if she broke that up with these aggressive saber-toothed tiger shapes, it wouldn't be as thematically relevant as it would be if she used these squishier, happier, more snuggly shapes. So I think that's what it comes down to with shape design. There is no objectively better shape. It's about understanding what you're trying to communicate and using shapes that actually align with that purpose. When driving fast in my car. Favorite value exercises? Just rendering spheres and things like that. You get the course. Oh, you get the course. Oh, you get it. Look, I'm not going to cut away to the course. I'm going to show you some excellent student examples. These are my favorite kinds of rendering exercises. These are a bunch of different exercises that I thought were really excellently well done from the course. But just understanding the modeling factors, light and shadow, how you add information with values instead of taking information away. For my money, I mean, this is why I designed the course to be heavy on these. If you're going to do an exercise instead of being rawly creative, the classics are the best, you know? Render a sphere, but know what you're actually doing. Anyone who's taken the course can tell you that for me to explain what is actually going on with a sphere, which sounds simple, like it should be so simple, but it's not. For me to get to being like, all right, off to the races, go render a sphere, I need to talk and do diagrams and explain concepts for about 2.5 hours. Like a whole movie's worth of ideas in order for you to be ready to just like nail a sphere, you know? There's a lot going on there. A lot of really good examples in here. Do you look to Carlos Huante for inspo? Oh, yeah. I think Carlos is one of the best living draftspeople that we have. Of course I do. We won't see his kind again. I've known Carlos's work for, I guess, well over a decade now. I encountered it for the first time when I was probably 20 years old, which was 12 years ago, at the Art Center Library. I stumbled upon his first book with Design Studio Press, Monstruo. I think that's what it's called, Monstruo. And the Art Center Library, that was the college I went to, also had his Gnomon DVD. I'm going to bring my microphone a little closer and try to talk a little bit more quietly because I have a podcast I have to do later today, and I don't want to lose my voice for it. Yeah, the library had his Gnomon Workshop DVD as well. So I saw the book, watched the workshop DVD. I actually wasn't so inspired by him then. I could tell it was great work, obviously, but there's a thing that happens in art where as you get better, as you improve more and more, a weird thing happens where for certain artists, your continued improvement starts to reveal the depth of their achievement rather than making it look closer. The more you gain knowledge, the more you realize just how incredibly difficult and nuanced their achievement is. I think that definitely happened with me as the years went on with Carlos, also with someone like Claire Wendling. I did not feel like their level was closer as I improved. I felt like I could not appreciate how good they were from my experiential ignorance. As I got better, it only became clearer how incredibly difficult it is to do what they do on that level. What do I do if I'm burnt out of my style and way of drawing, but still want to draw? Don't force anything. I mean, don't try something different. Just go where your interest goes. Also, be careful if you find that anything about your style is forced, like you have to sort of consciously do it. I think that it's inevitable that if you understand your style as a series of things that you do and you must do them in order to be on style, I think it's inevitable that you're going to burn out. I think that's definitely inevitable. You want to draw completely naturally, you know? I personally, when I'm feeling burnt out, I am how to say it. When I get burnt out, I'm burnt out on drawing completely. I don't want to draw anymore, at which point I'll take a break. But I never want to draw a different way. You know, because the way I draw, I've put a lot of work into making it sort of non-affected. Like I'm trying to remove influences and demands from outside sources, from audiences, from jobs, things like that. It couldn't possibly frustrate me. It's very relaxing. It gives me energy rather than taking energy away. Majora Z says, as a big fair use and copyright reform advocate, I'm concerned that any legal ruling against the fair use status of AI art may actually open up actual artists to liability to and restrict fair use. Undoubtedly, if it goes into a courtroom, a lot of complicated things are going to happen around AI, but now other people are going to disagree with me, right? But if you're asking my opinion on that, I think a better avenue to fight AI art would be ruling not that its use of copyrighted images is an infringement, but rather that the output images of AIs don't qualify for copyright protection. Yeah, I would generally agree. I agree that, it seems right now they don't qualify for copyright protection. So I think that that's kind of already handled. The question is how things are going to be pushed. You understand? Because as of right now, the Copyright Office is not granting copyright protection to AI-generated works. But the other thing that you need to remember, which is more in reference to your first message, is that the fair use question is happening in two areas. The fair use question, there's fair use questions to be asked at the level of output by the user, which, as I've said many times, I'm less concerned with that. That's not where I'm putting my energy these days. And there's another fair use question that occurs at the moment of training, in the way that the models are trained. And that fair use question is where my energy is personally going these days. First off there, I think I don't think that's actually a fair use question. It might become that, but I think actually right now things are so new that no one actually knows what that question, quote unquote, is legally. Is it a fair use question? Is it a privacy violation question? Is it an infringement question? Is it a text and data mining legal exemptions question? So I think that when minds smarter than I look into that, the very first step is actually going to be deciding what kind of question that is at the moment of training, and then very interesting things will happen from there. The protections that can occur at that first point, at the moment of training, I personally don't see that going any wrong kind of way for artists. I don't see how that will spiral out. That specifically addresses what companies like this, not just in art, but for the future, all kinds of companies, what they can do with our data as it goes out in the world. And I think that the protections that would be established there are only good for people. There's always going to be knock-on effects and things like that, but look at something like how Apple changed when they updated their OS, they made it so that apps like Facebook have to ask you if they're allowed to track your particular ass across your whole phone. And across the board, overwhelmingly, people always say no, back off, right? So we know what people want. We can all feel it in our guts what people want there. We don't want companies in which we have no say and whom have incentives that go against our incentives can do with the things that we put out in the world. That's where my energy goes these days. I'm aware of a lot of the arguments that are going on online, and as I've whinged about recently, it's like I'm not interested in what end users are doing. I'm really not. And there's complicated questions there, but at least for me, and all of you who want to go yell at people on Twitter, it's, I can't tell you what to do, but for me, it's a systemic problem and needs to be dealt with systemically. And to deal with it systemically, you need to look at the system first, not the end users. So I'm interested in the companies. I'm interested in how they gather their data. I'm interested in the tax and legal and other exemptions and privileges that we afford to the companies that do this, whether through loopholes or not. And all of that is deep enough and complicated enough that I don't see a good reason to yet worry about, is a particular person outputting these kinds of images a case of infringement or not. As I think that's downstream for the most part. You aren't even interested in specific Dream Booth stuff. I'm interested in Dream Booth and fine-tuning models in general, but you're not going to, like the Holly Menger Dream Booth model or the Paul Chesaden Dream Booth model, the fact that those can exist is an effect of one very particular mistake, which is Stable Diffusion releasing Stable Diffusion open source based on ill-gotten data. You can't fine-tune without a base model. The Holly Menger model, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your names, the Paul Chesaden model, the Sam Does Art model, they're all there because one particular company got out ahead of the field before anybody could catch up with their misdeeds and release that out into the wild. So that it is a systemic problem. That particular detailed scenario of people fine-tuning models on particular artists, it's at its core, if you want to look at it, if you want to address it for real, you can't address one model to the other. You need to address the systemic system that allowed for these fine-tuning models. And again, it's people are talking about it like a genie's out of the bottle, like there's no going back. It's like, if you had stopped Stable Diffusion from making that what I consider to be an error, an egregious error, these wouldn't exist. Because OpenAI, Imagen, all of these other models, they haven't released open source. You can't fine-tune them. They can fine-tune them, but as long as they're behind closed doors, they are susceptible to regulation, legislative adjustments. Stable Diffusion, at this point, there's one company to blame for those things. So you need to address it on a systemic level, and you need to show them that they cannot use they cannot use data in that way. There will be the equivalent of training torrent soon. Stopping stability would have slowed things down by maybe a decade. People would have crowdsourced massive training projects in the next decade, though. It would have happened eventually. I don't know what to say to arguments like that. I mean, I just find them uncompelling. Like, myself personally, I don't care that it would only be pushing it back a decade. It's wrong now. And I understand if other people don't have the energy to resist on the feeling that it's inevitable, but I do have the energy. And I don't, you don't know, and I don't know. We don't know what would have happened in 10 years if not. And again, a lot of these, even if people crowdsourced it and put it out there and there was a way to get at it and to use it, companies don't use stuff that's illegal. Companies don't want to use stuff that's illegal. If we can get our heads on straight and all agree that this is not how we want our data to be used, and we can codify that somehow, it will have a big impact. It won't matter that a bunch of people can create something like Stable Diffusion by doing some insane Kickstarter where they go out there and they say, yeah, hey everyone, please donate $100. We're gonna make this thing off of data that we stole, and isn't it cool that we all have it? And then they'll have it out there, out online. Maybe that's always going to be possible, but it will affect the overall feeling around these things. It will affect what becomes mainstream, what doesn't, if we codify it. And if we hold these people accountable, and if we insist on getting our voice out there on how we feel about our data being used, it is going to have an effect. I hear a lot of arguments that are really just based around like, it's inevitable, just stop thinking about it, stop doing anything. It's like, no, man, never, no. No way. Drive-by commenter with a $5 donation. Thank you so much, Drive-by commenter. He says, I do worry that disruption would leverage repetitive corporate-backed art and media while handicapping grassroots art via oversaturated market. I do worry that this disruption would leverage repetitive corporate-backed art and media, while handicapping grassroots art via an oversaturated market. It's one of my big concerns, for sure. I think I'm inclined to agree with you there. I think if it's really that fast and that quick to make specific art to order, people are going to do it. And the availability there and things like that is definitely going to have some effect on the market. What that effect is, none of us can say reasonably that we know it, but there's going to be some effect. There's something to think about there. AudioGus says, do you believe there should be laws against an individual doing their own training on copyrighted visuals for their own use? Not to make it like a sidestep, but I don't think that's the discussion right now. So just so that people understand when they hear me talk about it, like I really, that's not the discussion I'm interested in having. Like, again, like I've said, like an individual person doing that, that's gonna be a problem. You can see that with the fine tuning models, right? People who have put out fine tuning models, it's gone either way. They've doubled down and received a lot of backlash. with the Paul Chesaden fine-tuning model, we saw that after speaking with Paul, the person who made it decided not to release it. They saw that there was a problem. They did feel ethically worried about it. But just to give my first gut impressions of those questions, I think the scale of damages does matter, because what one individual does for their own use is simply a different case than the widespread distribution of what could be a permanent and robust infringement machine or something along those lines. So for example, if I took one of your pieces of art without your permission and I put it on a t-shirt and I started selling that t-shirt, is that infringement? Yes. Is that wrong? Yes. Is it illegal? Yes. And then you can come after me and you can sue me or try to get some compensation. But I sold 3 t-shirts, let's say, and I'm just one guy. You would be entitled to recourse from the t-shirts that I sold. And I'm sure there's a lot of other legal things there, but it's clear that that's a smaller damages case than what's going on here when it's at a systemic level, because when someone releases a tool that can then be turned into, I don't want to say particular artist names that much, just like, you know, John Doe, if it can be turned into a perfect John Doe replicating machine for the foreseeable future, that's more than just one shirt. That is profound and long-lasting damage to the commercial viability of that artist. And whether you think that that's inevitable or that's however that it's going to go that way anyway, so don't even worry about it, which again I completely disagree with. They're totally different discussions, I think, and the level of damages are different, and the interest that we should put on it, I believe, is different. One is going to have more of an effect than the other. Braver Leech says, I just wanted to say thanks, Steven. I started your course recently. I'm a beginner artist and it's really well designed. I really like how you're always telling us how you think when you do a demo. Very happy to hear that, Braver Leech. Thank you so much for getting the course. You get the course. And thank you, just thank you so much for the kind words. I'm glad that you are enjoying it. And I'm glad that you think it's well designed, because a whole ton of thought went into it. And I hope that's clear as you go through it. A lot of thinking time, a lot of writing time, a lot of curriculum designing time, a lot of drawing time. I'm glad it shows. I hope it's as helpful as possible. Hi, pup. Hi, puppy. What is it? No, it's not time for your cookie. It's far too early. It's far too early for that, you little dog. I know, it's very sad. No, I know, it's a tragedy. I know it's sad. Don't put your ears back like that. Yeah, I know. She gets so sad if she can't get her cookie. You gotta wait another hour. You gotta wait another hour. I'm sorry. It's really hard being a dog in this economy, you bet. I see it written on my dog's face every day. It cannot be easy. Who is this? This is maybe this is Lord Mormont, Lord Commander of the Night's Watch. Maybe that's a bear pelt around his shoulders. What's his name? Jaor? Is that his name? Jaor Mormont? Major Z says, see, I actually think the training step has an even stronger fair use case than outputs. I'll probably send you an email on it. I just hope it's clear I'm not just trying to justify AI. Like I said earlier, I think the first step is actually, we don't actually know that it's a fair use question. Like I said, it might be a privacy management question. It might be a lot of different things. Fair use might not actually be relevant here. I think the most galling thing for me, see, these companies, they're not doing those steps based on fair use. They don't make a fair use argument. It's a non sequitur to try to argue, I think, that fair use is in their favor. Their business model and their ability to do this is based on text and data mining exemptions that, if you read them from my reading, explicitly prohibit them from doing what they're doing. So fair use is not the first place I go to. I understand that it's interesting and it may become relevant, but I'm actually not convinced. I'm not going to be convinced about that until legal professionals decide that it's relevant. You get what I'm saying? If you just look at what they believe allows them to do what they do, that is to say, text and data mining exemptions for nonprofits and research purposes to collect copyrighted materials and make copies of it for training data. That is the one thing they base everything that they're doing on. And if you read the exemptions, that the exemptions themselves say you can't do what they do. You can't turn it into a commercial product, and you can't then extend these exemptions to end users of the product, which is what they're doing. They then go on and try to insist that they have the ability to pass commercial licenses on to the end user. It's all nonsense. It's all nonsense. And fair use doesn't come into it. Fish flops with the 10 SGD, getting me another glass of large coffee for Steven. That's right. Another big cup, a large glass. And by glass, we do mean glass. A large glass cup that inside contains burning hot coffee. And I grab it, I scoop it up, and I scald my hands when I grab that glass because it's full of piping hot coffee. And glass doesn't really insulate it very well. But it's fine because I want my coffee and I want it from fish flops. So I burn my hands and I burn my throat and I burn my stomach, and I'm happy the whole time. And when I'm rolling around in bed that night, screaming, groaning, my wife's like, "What the hell's wrong with you? Are you okay?" I'm like, I had to do it for fish flops. And she'll immediately roll over and be like, "I understand. No, you're right. You do have to do it. You do have to do it for fish flops." So as you were, go back to groaning, go back to screaming. I'll be like, "Thanks, babe." Oh my God. It hurts. It really hurts. Quality of stream online, art aside. But the art's good. But let's give the art its due, all right? Let's not pretend. The art contributes. I know at this point you're all here for me grunting and my world-class singing, and none of you care about the art anymore, but we have to acknowledge that the art is still good. That's honestly the saddest part. I think AI is discouraging so many people who are just starting out, especially when early on. It's really easy to psych yourself out to begin with. Yeah, it is. It's an existential tragedy for the heart of the artist, for sure. Yet, I agree that that's the saddest part. How bummed it's making people. And I think it's pretty safe to say that there's a lot of people who otherwise would have begun the practice or would be engaging the practice more right now, who haven't because of the AI news. You know, it's just it's a simple value proposition, right? Stephen, I would like to ask for your wisdom again. If you put a lot of effort into art piece and choose to share it, but people say it's AI generated, what should you do with your style and future paintings? Man, they're saying it's AI generated. I don't think that's upsetting, and it's certainly annoying, and definitely surprising and very modern and very new, but I wouldn't change the way you work because of that. I mean, all of these things are transient. Something's going to give. We're going to push. Things are going to transform. Things are going to change. And it's very dangerous to consciously modify the way that you naturally work to avoid something like that, even if it does seem very worrying right now. So I personally would say stay the course. If it happens over and over again, you know, if it happens once, it's like, don't worry about it. You know, maybe you just had like you had a weird hand and everyone's like, that's AI because AIs do hands weird or something like that. That'll all move on. The individual points will move on. So I would stay the course. And if it happens over and over again, maybe just start recording yourself while you draw so that you can prove it and share it that way, you know? You know, we may be entering an era where it's much more important to share the process on your stuff. I know that I feel very lucky that I started streaming art years and years ago so that I'm used to it. And, you know, no one's going to say my stuff's AI generated. There's hundreds of hours of me doing it. And I know that that sucks because, you know, it asks you to be comfortable doing your work live or recording it. Even recording it tends to make you work different. It's definitely not ideal. But again, I'm not sure you'll even need to do that. I think just don't overreact to someone accusing you of that only once or twice. I would only change things or try to find a way to modify it if it becomes really, really relevant over many, many accusations. And don't forget that the people who comment on stuff, it's like, that's such a self-selecting set. I don't know how else to put it. The vast majority of people don't think that. The vast majority of people are accepting and believing that it's your work, and they're just not commenting because most people don't have the time to comment, and they're not that involved in these things, and they're just taking you at face value. So don't forget that that's not how everybody feels just because some troll said that to you. Or even not a troll, but someone who's genuinely confused. Drawing in public is fun. I agree, but I also know it's not for everybody. It's only going to be fun for some people. They accused Ian McCaig as AI generated. Oh God, that's pure trolling. I mean, if you're going to accuse someone like Ian of making AI art, I think that just betrays that it's a joke or a bad faith attack. It's not, no one's taking that seriously. There's not a person on earth taking it seriously that Ian McCaig is using AI for his work. Don't worry about that. $5 from Silent Names, coffee to power the human artist. Thank you so much, Silent Names. I really appreciate it. I'm going to turn it into coffee. That's for sure. Unfortunately, I've recently been reducing my coffee intake throughout the day. So just so you know, when you guys buy me coffee, I exit my home at about 4 a.m. I go buy a separate large cup of coffee for everybody who donates a coffeeable amount of stream donation money. I bring all of it back home, which from a basic stream, it's like the next day I'm buying like 8 to 10 large cups of coffee. And then because I want to sleep better at night, I stop drinking coffee at 9 a.m. So I drink all 10 large cups in succession before 9 a.m. So yeah, in the space of about 3 hours, I drink probably 200 liters of coffee, if my math is right. Not liters, ounces, 200 ounces of coffee. And yet at 11 a.m., I'm this calm. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Steve, you might need colon cleaning pills. It's possible. It's possible. 200 liters. Steven isn't human. You know, it's the Colombian in me. I have a natural aptitude for the consumption of coffee. That doesn't make any sense, for the record. All the good Colombian coffee is exported. Colombians really drink a very different kind of thing. It's a funny irony that what we generally consider delicious Colombian coffee is not the most commonly found coffee in Colombia. I tasted Colombian coffee brought by a friend. I thought it tasted good, but now that you say that, could be a placebo effect. Yeah, it's like when you're in Colombia, and I'm not an expert on this stuff. Like, I'm Colombian, but I've only been to Colombia twice. But when you walk around, the coffee that you buy in like a coffee shop and stuff like that, like I said, most of the good stuff goes to export, right? So when you buy Colombian beans here, they're great. If you buy a bagged bag in Colombia, like airport or something like that, it'll be good stuff. But when you're walking around and you're getting coffee like in a coffee shop, they drink a very different kind of thing. What's it called again? Tacita, I think it is. Which means like little cup. You get a tiny little, more like espresso type cup, and it's not for me. I'll say that. It's not for me. But maybe I just haven't been to the right places. For Real Nicholas says, Steven, do you ever feel like you are always tired but want to draw and just can't until the responsibilities kicks off? Like until the responsibilities get too intense? Do I feel like I'm always tired? I think maybe it's less of a drawing question and more just an always tired question, you know? We live in difficult times. I know a lot of people who basically always feel tired, and I've definitely been there before. I think there's a lot of relevant questions you could ask yourself as an artist. You know, now physically tired, you know, you gotta talk to your doctor about the physically tired part. But when it comes to wanting to make art and having the energy to draw, are you resting enough? You know, and not like fake resting, not resting for the sake of working, not guilty resting, not, you know, resting where you're playing video games, but in the back of your head the whole time you're like, I should be working, there's something better I should be doing, but really resting. Just resting because you deserve it. Just resting because you're a human being in the world, and it's kind of amazing enough that you manage to knit yourself together on the molecular level. And maybe your moment-to-moment thoughts are not the end-all, be-all of what makes it worth it to be you. Can you rest just because you're a member of this world? You've managed to manifest in reality. Isn't that enough sometimes? Isn't it okay to just completely turn off and just let yourself, with compassion and generosity, just recover? I find that if I can reach that place, and it's not an easy place to reach, it's actually difficult to reach that place of complete release and allowing yourself to live without expectations. I find that once I hit that, I'm only in that state for a very brief period of time before just the energy explodes. Just suddenly I feel so, it's like, oh yeah, now I remember. I don't really have to do anything. I don't really have to do anything. You know, life's complicated and hard for everybody, and I'm just trying to get through it, and I'm doing my best. I don't need to put all of this pressure on myself. And the people who really care about me, they just want me to be happy, no matter what. Once I release that and I take that weight off, suddenly I regain so much energy. Suddenly I feel so positive and so optimistic that suddenly I really desperately want to be creative in an explosive and exciting way. And that stays with me. That stays with me for a pretty long time. It's very, very rejuvenating. So if you feel tired all the time, ask yourself, is it because you're carrying around a very complex, overwrought, and baroque creative burden that you have invented for yourself? And when's the last time you gave yourself a break to put that burden down, to put down that insanely elaborate sculpture and just rest for real for a moment? Kamar Thomas with the 10 Canadian dollars. Thank you so much, Kamar Thomas, for what I learned from you about AI. Hey, no problem. Happy to be of service. Truly, truly. You know, that information needs to get out there. You know, you really, your real payment for my efforts there is in you being more educated about what's going on in those topics, because as these things go forward, education is what's going to matter here. We need to really understand what's going on and what people are doing with our work and with our data. That's more important than anything. Goodbye, Adrian. Thank you so much, Kamar. Oh boy, the AI, the AI, the AI. I've got quite a few talks coming out, not on this channel, but other people's channels. I'll share them in the community and stuff like that once they come out. But yeah, I mean, I'm making the rounds. I'm talking about this stuff in a lot of places. So you all will, if you're looking for more detailed explanations of my viewpoints on these things, or where I think the discussion is really should be focused and sort of going step by step on stuff, keep your eye out for those. They're coming out. How's our sketchbook page doing here? Yeah, we got some stuff on here. Let's poke at this guy a little bit. He's got his finger up his butt. Maybe let's do a new one. Hello, Reynola. I'm tempted to start a movement where we change it from AI to ML. Yeah, it's a bad misnomer. Unfortunately, it is the colloquism of choice right now, but that's definitely not how you pronounce it, right? It's like colloquialism. It's definitely one of those words I know from reading it and not from hearing it. Have you mocked a DeviantArt yet? Well, I don't know if mocking is the way to go, but I've definitely explained how that's all nonsense. And it's not what they're saying it is. I recorded an interview about just 3 hours after DeviantArt made its announced DreamUp. I already had an interview scheduled that day. Yeah, just 3 hours after that. So I give my initial take there in that interview. You guys will see it. I think it'll come out on Friday, not on my channel, but on another. I feel so weird, you know, because they haven't announced it. Like, I don't want to say what the channel is, what day it's supposed to come out, because it's up to them. You know, I don't want to create false expectations. So let me say that I'm not sure when it'll come out, but it'll be soon. And it's on a channel that you all follow. You all know it. You'll see it. But I don't mock DeviantArt, but very quickly after it came out, I kind of looked into it, and, you know, based on the background knowledge that I had already about how the companies are operating, it was just clear to me that there was nothing really there. It was all for optics, and they can't do, at this stage, they can't do what they promised they're doing there. So, yeah, I did explain that in that interview. Funky Frankie with the €5. Thank you so much, Funky Frankie. You're very kind, Funky Frankie. Funky Frankie, oh, keeping it funky, oh, funking up and down the street. Yeah, there goes Frankie. Ooh, who's that Frankie? Wow, he's so funky. Yeah, funking up and down the street. There goes Frankie. Yeah, who's it gonna funk next? Can't wait to watch Frankie. Funk him up. Yeah, that's probably, you can't, I shouldn't. Maybe that's not the kind of guy Frankie is. You know, maybe he doesn't want to be associated with funking people, because it's like, what, I mean, there's some low-hanging fruit for what funking some would be, but we don't want to imply that Frankie wants to funk or that other people want to get funked. So maybe we should just pump the brakes on that a little bit. My dog didn't like that either. She came right over. She's like, that was a particularly bad, what was that? What? That was a particularly bad song? Well, you know, it was kind of extemporaneous. Yeah, I mean, I didn't want to say off the dome. It just, I don't really have any urban well, I'm not trying to sound smart. I mean, it's a word in the dictionary. I know people think I'm pretentious enough as it is, but that's just kind of who I... Yeah. Right. Well, I think that's probably illegal. Okay, we'll talk about it. I'm still on, so. All right, afterwards, yeah. Yeah. You go, Fanny, show 'em who's boss. Yeah, she's quick to do that. She really is. Steven, do you play any video games? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I started playing the new God of War a couple days ago. Yeah, I'm playing the new God of War right now, Ragnarok. And before that, I played Elden Ring. I play when stuff that, you know, really big stuff or stuff that really interests me is out. I don't really I don't have like the constant habit of playing games. Like if there's nothing that's really new or interesting out, I don't like go seek something out or make a habit of just sitting to play them because that's kind of like what I do. That I don't do. So I'll go months without playing sometimes. Before Elden Ring came out, I hadn't played anything in a long time. Ever plan on traveling to Europe? Oh yeah, I'll be back around there. I've been to Europe before. Beautiful. Last time I was in Europe, I was in Italy. I was in Italy last summer. Do you prefer movement in games or combat? Guess I've never really thought about that before. I guess if I just look at the games I play, it's probably combat. I don't play a lot of platformers. I don't play any racing games. I really liked Breath of the Wild, and I mean, what do you think? Is Breath of the Wild more a movement game or more a combat game? I feel like when I think of my experience playing Breath of the Wild, I'm thinking more about movements rather than combat. Pepper Guy says, I just came here to tell you I am gay. I have to go to class now. Congratulations. All of the gay people that I know are unusually powerful, so good for you, man. Good for you. What's wrong, dog? What do you want? You know it's too early. My dog's very mad at me right now. She's just very hungry. Don't you guys just love sketching around, having a nice little sketchbook page open, whether it be traditional or digital, and just poking and just doing the funnest part of a drawing and then moving on when you're bored? I mean, is anything better? I really don't think anything's better. Hello, Kim Gimson. People I talk to on the daily tend to appreciate art quite a bit. That's rare. It's rare. I feel like that's definitely the luckier situation to be in. Most artists that I meet, like students and things like that, it's more typical that they're quite upset that they have no one to talk to about art or that nobody cares, you know? I love the background noise. Yeah, I live in a very loud part of New York City. Ain't nothing I can do about that. Is this Photoshop or Illustrator? This is Photoshop. This is Adobe Photoshop. I'm asking because I work in Photoshop. I have never seen this layout. I just have two add-ons, Coolerist, the color wheel, and Layer Factory. There's links to them in the description. They're just plugins. NBD. Nick Ravioli says, you heard how Adobe plans updates that lock you out of certain color ranges unless you buy according licenses? Yeah, that's surprising. I saw the initial posts about that, but I haven't looked into it in detail. Is it just that you, yeah, how could that work? My gut tells me it can't be a huge deal because I think what they're locking with the Pantone colors is, if I go to Windows, swatches, so this is the swatches menu in Photoshop, right? So you can append Pantone colors, for example, which I don't have here. Maybe because they already got rid of them. Here we go. So I appended the legacy swatches, and you can see there's Pantone CMYK coded, uncoded. So I think they're just removing these reference libraries, right? And using these swatches, because obviously within whatever RGB color space you're using, you can still use, I mean, it's just that color. It's just that you don't know with precision that that color maps to a Pantone color that can be printed correctly, because that's what Pantone is for. So, I mean, you can still use all the colors, you just can't use this official reference library that lets you know it's going to print correctly, which does sound silly because it would only benefit, the only reason you would use the Pantone reference system is to print with on a Pantone calibrated system, which means that down the line it only benefits Pantone if more people are trying to use their reference system. Whoops, I lost my connection to my mouse. Hold on, I gotta plug in my mouse. So it definitely seems silly to do that on Pantone or Adobe's part. The colors are still available if you know the exact hexes. Yeah, it's like, it's not like they're closing off a part of the color space. Like the color space you're working in is just defined by your monitor and whatever settings you have Photoshop on. So they can't prohibit the use of a color. They're trying to prohibit the use of the reference library, which again, like I said, is ridiculous. I mean, that will only hurt Adobe, it will only hurt Pantone, I imagine. It's like Pantone as a color library should want more people using their reference library so that you'll want to print with their reference library. Apparently Adobe has been ignoring quite a bit the Pantone company, and that's why. Some form of protest from Pantone. I don't know. I never, I'm a little, it's a little difficult for me to, I don't have good intuitions around what Pantone's doing or how it would function, because I never use any of the reference libraries or swatches in Photoshop. I'd have to look into it in a little bit more detail. I know a lot of graphic designers and print people use it because it ensures that you can print correctly, but if you're on a Pantone calibrated printer. But it's pretty industry standard for stuff like that. Beetle Bro looking cool. Yo, Beetle Bro looking cool. I think I'm going to go soon, guys, because I have to give an interview later today, and I can feel my voice is starting to strain. Let's just do a little bit more work on this guy. Bye-bye, Bogdan. Thanks again for your donation. Oh, there you go. There's Chet Czar. Yeah, I'm trying to save my voice for you, Chet. And to answer Jack Foster, what's the interview going to be on? Chet and I are discussing AI. Surprise, surprise. It's a good time for it, too. I'm glad it happened this week, Chet, because the release of DeviantArt's Dream Up really makes it relevant to look at some of the bad statements that can be made around this stuff when people don't really understand how the companies are structured and what you can actually do as it stands to protect yourself and things like that. I think the DeviantArt situation has really made that relevant. A Liquid Wombat with the $4.99 donation. Thank you so much, A Liquid Wombat. I'm going to turn your A Liquid Wombat donation into a very liquid cup of coffee. It's going to get cooked up, piping hot. It's going to slide right down the gullet. No chaser. Piping hot coffee. One giant gulp like a pelican right into my stomach. Burning me on the way down, charring me, making me sizzle on the inside. Horrifying the barista and horrifying the other patrons. And I will turn to them with dark coffee pouring down from my mouth like the penguin in that Batman movie. And I'll say, what? What? Like you've never gotten a donation on your YouTube stream. Judge me not. It's what they expect. And all the people with their little MacBooks, they'll close the lid, look at me like this, walk out silently as I rave. I think what I'm reacting to here is that sometimes on beetles, they have like a bronzish color in between their plates. And I kind of turn that into a gold. Something to consider for next stream. Yes, it's for the Dark Arts Society podcast, which is a great podcast. If you guys have never caught it, you got to check it out. They have a YouTube channel now, so you can see the podcast episodes with a video. Here, I'll link the YouTube. You can check it out there. If you go over there, you'll catch the interview we're going to do today. Also, I did an interview, what, like a year ago now? Was it, chat? I think I was on at the beginning of this year, right? I think that's the best podcast talk I've ever had. I think that's the, for one that covers everything, like my history, my outlook. I think that's the best one I've ever done. I think me and Chet had the best conversation there by far. We really hit it all. That was a good one. All right, everybody. I'm going to cut out. I'm going to go have some lunch. I'm going to finally give my dog her cookie because she's very angry at me. She's been staring at me this whole time. She's right there sitting, staring at me. So I'm going to run. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Goodbye, Reynola. Goodbye, Angry Pepe. Goodbye, Saman Kutcher. Goodbye, 3 Polygons. Goodbye, Disciple of the Sun. Goodbye, Chet Zar. Goodbye, Dan Diggity. Goodbye, Yoga, Satri, Anda. Goodbye, Modil. Goodbye, Audio Goose. Goodbye, Ruben Paiman. Goodbye, Hainai. Goodbye, Jeremiah Lakorchik. A Liquid Wombat. Did I get Angry Pepe? Goodbye, Nick Ravioli. Peace, everybody. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Thanks for sketching along. And good luck with all of your creative endeavors today. Enjoy your drawing. Make it a priority to enjoy your drawing as you draw today. It's very important to have fun while you do it. Goodbye, everybody. I'll see you Wednesday.